everyone, welcome to the first episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Alex Husky, and
I'm Malik Mitchell.
and we are so excited to be here today. Malik, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk. We have a lot of NDSU sports to get through today. But before we jump in, since this is our first episode, I thought it'd be good to give a little introduction. So, as I was saying, I'm Alex Dusky. I am a sophomore studying sports media, and I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
I'm Malik Mitchell. I'm a freshman. I'm studying journalism, and I'm from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
Obviously, there are a lot of spring sports happening here at NDSU. There's, remind me if I'm forgetting some, but there's football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, football. Did I already say football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Track, wrestling still has their stuff. So.
Volleyball starting.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of things to cover throughout this semester. So make sure that you're staying with us throughout this semester, and we'll try and give you the best updates that we have so far for Bison Sports. Starting off with football. You know, the FCS moved their season to the spring. They announced that in the fall that they were going to play. But right now, they're unsure about the scheduling. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, they're set to play their first game February 21st against Youngstown, so that'll be good. But without Trey Lance,
right,
which is going to be crazy. I don't know how they're going to make their new offense. Their new quarterback is Zeb. What's his last name?
Zeb Nolan. He's
Zeb
a
Nolan.
transfer from Iowa State, I believe.
Yep. And they're also losing other people like Adam, the running back. He transferred to another school. There's other people transferring, and there's a buzz behind Zeb Nolan from Iowa State. I don't know how he's going to perform. How do you think he's going to perform?
I think that, you know, coming in from the Big 12, obviously he was playing behind Brock Purdy, who is phenomenal, so he didn't get much playing time, which I believe is why he transferred.
Yep.
But I know that the Cyclones have a phenomenal program as a whole, and so I believe that he's been trained really well, and I'm excited to see how he works together with the Bison offense.
Yep, and they also recruited another quarterback from Virginia Tech, Quincy Patterson. That will be a crazy mix-up. Which one, you know, they're going to have to battle out in practice.
Yes.
You know.
See who will start. And, you know, some teams do like to have that dual-threat quarterback where they'll put in one in and switch it up. Something that, you know, is to note is that we did lose a lot of seniors that declared for the draft or just decided not to play, like Trey Lance, and then lots of new incoming players that the team is just really excited for. And something that when Coach Entz spoke to the media last week, he was saying that, you know, the pandemic stopped football, but it didn't stop life. I think that's a really good thing, in that he had nothing bad to say about the players that chose to proceed with their life, but he is super excited to focus on the new players.
Yeah, they also have a lot of returning guys, too, like Phoenix Bros, good receiver returning, Christopher Watson, the #1 receiver, Kobe Johnson, which is a standout running back. He's coming back, and he's still young. I think he was a sophomore. And their dominant O-line is still returning. So it won't be too much of a change, but it's just that quarterback position.
It's going to be
it's going to be a big one. I don't know how they're going to run their offense. It's going to change it. That's going to be different.
Something that I think that we will talk about throughout this show is that a lot of Bison sports seem to have a really strong freshman and sophomore class. So looking forward, you know, these teams can be great coming into the future. But, you know, this season for all spring sports, I think there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Something else that I hadn't really thought of, but then when Coach Entz spoke about it, is that this football team is now going to be playing 2 seasons in 1 calendar year. You know, as an athlete, that's just a lot. There's no off season. How do you think that's going to affect practices, players, injuries?
The players are going to be exhausted. I know that for a fact, and there's probably going to be a dumb amount of injuries, you know, so I don't know how players are going to perform. I feel like there's going to be a lot of players hurt, though.
As we were kind of saying about that schedule, apparently there are 2 circulating between the FCS right now, and so Coach Entz said that they're not exactly sure who they're playing, when they're playing, except for, like you said, that Youngstown at the start of the season. Do you think there's any uncertainty whether the season will actually be played? Like, do you think that's a fear anymore?
No, I don't think that's a fear anymore. You know, they put a lot of people's minds that the season is going, you know, they're practicing now, so I feel like they wouldn't be practicing if they didn't have a season, you know. So I think the season will go on their go.
I hope so too. Do you have any predictions about how this offense and this defense will work together? Or, you know, will we have another championship run season?
I don't think they're going to get it this year.
Oh?
Just because Trey Lance.
You heard it here.
Trey Lance did so much, and I don't think this new guy's going to live up to the hype. I just don't think he is.
Well, we'll have to see
Yeah.
for sure. Something else that, you know, alongside that the schedule hasn't been set, is that when there was a coaches Zoom meeting, apparently not all the coaches were on. Are you aware of many schools that backed out or are not for sure playing in the spring?
No, I haven't heard any schools back that. Have you?
I haven't either. That's why Coach Entz was like, do they not care to get the information, or are they not playing, or were they just too busy? It's just hard to know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see the upcoming season, but I don't see why, a football team wouldn't want to play or have a season,
Exactly.
So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
And hopefully the team can stay healthy, safe from COVID, and with injuries. I know a lot of the FBS teams and NFL team players, had those injuries early on in the season just because of that long break from playing.
Yep. But I've talked to the athletic director, and he said they're doing pretty good. Their practice going smooth. No injuries yet, but it's a lot.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a lot.
To get back.
It's a lot, yeah.
All right, well, when we get back, we'll be previewing the men's and women's basketball season. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about NDSU men's basketball. Right now, they're 9-7 overall, 7-1 in the Summit League, so they're dominant in the Summit League Conference, coming off a 2-game win streak against Denver University.
Right, so there's a lot to unpack about this team. 9-7 isn't that great, but what matters is that Summit League 7-1 score. We're about halfway through the season. How do you think the team's going to switch to finish out and finish strong going into that conference play?
Well, all they have to do is just focus on their main top scorers, which is Rocky, Tyree Edey, and Sam Grissel. Rocky, he's just a leader on the team. You can tell the guys really gravitate towards him. He's leading, averaging 15 points and 7 rebounds, which is crazy. So yeah, I think if they just keep, using their main guys, they'll get far in the conference.
And you've been working with NDSU Athletics covering basketball, so you've been to all the home games.
Yep.
Rocky is a star. You said that. We can't disprove that.
Yep.
But he's graduating. He's a senior. What have you seen from the younger players? I know that Coach Entz has talked about Grant Nelson kind of stepping up. What have you seen from him and the other freshmen? Yeah,
when Rocky leaves, Grant Nelson definitely has the potential to fill his void. He's doing real good right now. Probably what he doesn't have, what Rocky has, is more posting up. Really getting into the basket and being aggressive. But other than that, he can gain that through his experience, So, yeah, Grant Nelson would be a good fit after he graduates.
I think the coach was saying how when he recruited Grant, he said, hey, I want you to follow Rocky. I want you to listen to everything he says and do everything he does. Have you been able to see that in practice? Besides posting up, do they have similar playing styles at all?
Essentially, they do, because they can also both shoot as a big man. So yeah, they do have similarities, and you could see him, really taking his leadership in practice. So yeah, and they have a great bond. So yeah, they do have a great bond. They're going to be good together.
Are there any other players besides the seniors that stand out to you?
Tyree Edey, man with the handles, and he has a great shot. Yeah, he's averaging 11 points. He's doing good. He can do a lot for the team.
And he's a junior or a sophomore?
I think he's a junior. Yeah,
okay,
he's a
so
junior.
we shall have this season and next.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And with COVID, did we get granted another year of eligibility?
I'm not sure. I don't think we did though.
Oh,
I don't think we did.
Dang. Well, then we gotta take
Since
what we
have a season. I don't think they did.
Tonight and tomorrow they're playing against Kansas City in Kansas City. What are you expecting to see from those games tonight and tomorrow?
I think the NDSU is going to come out with a win. Kansas City's not doing really good this year, and Rocky's going to do what Rocky does. I think it's going to be a good game. Well, not a close game, but I think it's going to be a blowout, actually. What do you think?
I think so, too. I think that, the team really needs us to move forward. They've had a rough couple. They beat Denver, like you said. But before that, against UND, I believe they lost in overtime. And so, obviously, a little rough, especially with that in-state rivalry. Disadvantage. So I think that they're really trying to finish out the season. How many games are left? It's 8 maybe?
Yeah, close to 8.
What are you expecting to see? We said that they're 7-1. Who's going to be their toughest opponent in the conference play?
Probably UND. It's always that rivalry. They always go back and forth over the years anyways. But I am excited to see this new guard, Donald Carter, coming off an injury, and he had his first start against Denver, actually, the second game in Denver. He's looking pretty good, so I'm excited to see what he'll do in Kansas City, actually. So.
And he was a transfer this season?
Yep, a transfer from Scottsdale Community College. Yep, so I was excited to see what he's going to do.
I think so. That, like we said, a lot of new players coming into these NDSU sports that we can hopefully see throughout the rest of this season and coming in the next seasons as well.
Yep.
What else, have you had a favorite game moment or something that you're like, man, this team is really solid throughout the season so far?
Well, you got to go with the NDSU versus TCU. Rocky just dunks over the guy, all over ESPN. It's got to be that. Rocky is just. He's just Rocky.
He's just Rocky, yeah.
He's just Rocky. But yeah, that's probably my favorite game moment against TCU when he dunked over that guy. It was crazy. What was your favorite NDSU movie?
I would probably say that one as well. It's just one of those things, the TCU Big 12 matchup, just the excitement of that game is unreal to begin with, and then him just going out and being a star. We have been talking about him a lot, and with him being a senior, do you think he'll enter the NBA draft? Do you think there's a future for him after NDSU?
Oh, for sure. I think any team that passes him is delusional. He's really good, He can definitely help on many teams. Yeah. But how do you think Kansas City is going to play, though, against NDSU?
They're, 6-9 right now? I think that they'll put up a good fight. I don't want them to sell Kansas City short just like they shouldn't have sold Denver short last week, you know. But it's always hard to tell with these teams, Could NDSU come out and perform amazing and Kansas City flop, and then we have, like you said, a blowout win? Or will Kansas City show up, they're at home, they have the home field advantage? I think it's really hard this season more than other seasons, especially with COVID. You have the limited fan attendance to begin with, which I know players and coaches say, it doesn't really matter because we're in our own heads. But
it matters.
It does.
It matters.
There's some things that they're not the same this season. But obviously I'm hopeful that we can come out and win tonight.
Yep.
Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Alex, and alongside me is Malik Mitchell. We're here to talk about NDSU women's basketball. They are having an outstanding season so far. They are 11-3 overall right now. Do you have their Summit League?
Yeah, they're 6-2 in the Summit League,
okay,
which is
so
really good.
Yes. Yep. Again, like the men's basketball, they're playing tonight and tomorrow against Kansas City. Like I said before, you've gone to all the basketball games. Just what are some key takeaways from what you've seen this season?
But I've seen Heaven Hambling is really a good point guard, a shooter,
Right. I remember the coach was saying how he just wants her to shoot, and sometimes she's a little timid. I know that was 2 weeks ago, and they've since played Denver. Did you see her shooting more in that game?
Yeah, but I noticed that she was missing a lot more.
Okay.
So it takes a while for her to get in her groove, but when she gets in her groove, she starts dropping them. She's fine. Yep.
What are some other key players?
Emily Dietz at the forward position, she's really good in the paint. A lot of and ones, Color King and one, she's really good. Ryan Cobbins, sort of a leadership role on her team, she's really good. She's an all-around player. She can do anything, rebound, score, assist. So that's probably their Rocky.
They're Rocky.
They're Rocky and the women's teams. But yeah, that's how do you think Heaven Hamlin is going to do in the next game, though?
I really like her. She's a fun player to watch. I think obviously shooting and missing is not good for the confidence, but I think the coaching staff really stands behind her and knows that she just needs to get out there, and once she shoots and makes them, her confidence will grow and she'll get into that groove, as you were saying. So I'm expecting to see a lot of points up from her, or at least shots. One player that started several games was sophomore Marie Olson. She got hurt on the 9th against Omaha and tore her ACL, is out for the rest of the season. I think she should have surgery this weekend, I think was the plan. How do you think the team has stepped up to fill the hole that she left?
I think they stepped up a lot because, it doesn't really make a difference. They're still winning, they're still putting up points. So I don't think it make a difference. But I think probably another top player, Renea Hopkins, is really just a ball of energy. She really gets the team hype. She's a clutch player, has been the reason that they won in overtime many a game, especially at UND.
That game was huge in overtime.
Yep, she's not the biggest player, but she still finds a way to score points and get their team done.
I think with this women's team, there's only 2 seniors, I believe, on the roster. And so very young team, very strong sophomore class, especially led by Heaven. Who are what grades are the other girls that you were talking about? Are they sophomores and freshmen, or are they juniors? Do you know?
Juniors. Heaven is a sophomore. Right. Everybody's sophomore and up. Yep. So.
Looking forward, I know that Coach Collins was talking about their 3 new recruits. That was back in November, so I don't know if it's been updated since then. But he says that they're very competitive young women, especially Ellie. I don't remember her last name, from Minnesota. What do you think the future is going to look like with those 3 new recruits, in addition to the sophomore class becoming juniors and more stronger leaders on the team?
I think it'll probably be a stronger offense, probably a lot more shooting, a lot more offense, and it'll be more guards, because they have Emmy Diaz as a forward position, and Ryan, she could play anything. But, yeah, I think it'll be more of a guard than an inside game. That's what I think.
So tonight and tomorrow, like we said, they're playing Kansas City. What are you expecting? Do you think those will be easy wins, tough games, or what are you thinking?
Well, the thing about the girls, when they do have an easy game, it feels like they kind of slack off and then they lose. But I think they, shaped up, and they'll never let that happen again after Denver. So I think they'll come out and beat them. I think Renea, she's going to come out, do what she does. Ryan Cobbins and Heather Hebling, hopefully she gets her shot good and doesn't have to warm up, later in the game. But I think, yeah, they should win.
And I believe last I checked, we were 3rd in the Summit League Conference behind South Dakota and South Dakota State. And those 2 opponents will be our last 4 games of the season. How do you think those are going to turn out? Those are historically really strong women's basketball programs. Do we stand a chance? How is this going to play into the tournament?
We definitely stand a chance. I wouldn't count NDSU out. They definitely stand a chance. But SDSU is pretty good,
solid,
pretty solid. But I will still have a fighting chance. I don't think we'll just be counted out that easily. We should be good.
Well, hopefully tonight tonight and tomorrow they can pull out that win against Kansas City.
Yep.
When we come back, we have one last segment for you guys, talking about Bison women's volleyball. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now we're going to transition to volleyball. How is volleyball doing?
So, their season was supposed to be played in the fall, like football, and they switched to the spring. Last weekend, they won their first 2 matches. They played against in-state rival UND. I believe the first, on Friday, they won 3-1, and on Saturday, they won 3-0. So pretty solid competition against them. And then they're playing Kansas City Sunday and Monday of this weekend, so lots to see there. We're going to be honest, neither of us really know that much about volleyball, so we're learning as we go. But something that I picked up from this team is that it's a really mix of senior leadership, freshman ability. I think there's a lot of potential in this team. That press conference when we were talking about from the other coaches, Coach Lopez was there as well, and she was just so excited for this team, because they practiced all last fall.
Oh, wow.
In hopes for the season, yeah. And so she's like, not only are we really at the top of our game, but they're super excited. Can you imagine just practicing and then just not getting that season?
Yep. A lot of people were crushed. High school sports, a lot of people. So I know exactly what that feels like. But it encourages this team to go get it done. They're more hungry. They want to play even more. So, yeah, that'd be good. Who are the top players on the team?
So last week, Allie Hines is a senior. She's been phenomenal. And then Alexis Bachmeyer, I believe, is a freshman who really stood out to me. I'm looking at the stats sheet, and there's not one player that just stands out. It's a really, and obviously volleyball is more of a team effort. You're not really going to see that star wide receiver, that star quarterback. But something that Coach Lopez said was that the depth on this team is really great. And I know that with D1 or with FBS football last fall, because those players were getting injured or they had a quarantine or they were exposed, that depth really mattered. And so I think that that's something that's really important for this team.
Yeah.
And I think also Coach Lopez talked about that their defense is going to be good. And so I think, being able to do the 3-0 set last Saturday, hopefully we can see a repeat of that. But like football, they're playing 2 seasons in 1 calendar year. And with volleyball, that's a lot of jumping, a lot of diving, a lot of, how do you think that's going to affect the players physically?
Physically, they're going to be worn out. That's like any sport, There's no sport that's less than the other, They all work hard, So, but, hey, if they're good, if they're hungry enough, I feel like they'll still win, They'll want it more.
If you were a coach in this position, you know how important practices are, but you also know that the health and overall safety of the players are important. How would you adjust practice schedules or, I feel like that's just such a tough position to be in.
That is a tough one, but, you still want to practice your team, get your team better. You never want to slack off because other people are getting better while your team is just standing still. But what I would do is probably split offense and defense on different days. just how you know social distancing and stuff like
Right.
that. So, and that would just spread out. That would work.
You brought up a good point about that social distancing. Something, you know, I haven't seen any sport where the players who are actively playing have to wear masks. But UND, the girls wore masks on the court last week. Have you seen that in any basketball games?
No basketball players wear masks.
That's what
no.
I was talking with one of the NDSU athletics workers, and I was like, you know, is this a thing? She's like, I have no idea. And so I didn't know if like UND is just taking it very, very carefully or what.
And maybe it's just optional. Maybe it's just
That's true.
maybe they generally just don't feel safe enough. You know, not everybody's that much comfortable with COVID still. You know, there's people still on edge, but yeah.
Lots to unpack about that volleyball team. Obviously, with the season just barely starting, we can't really analyze too much yet. Something that we can analyze, though, outside of NDSU sports, NFL Super Bowl Sunday is in 2 Sundays. It's Brady and the Bucks against Mahomes and the Chiefs. What are your, you know, we have 2 minutes left in the show. What are your predictions, thoughts on this? What are you thinking?
So they say the GOAT versus the baby GOAT, Tom Brady and Mahomes. I think it's going to be a very high scoring offensive game, definitely, because you got Brady, you know, they got receivers, you got Tyler Johnson and Mike Evans, and then you got Tyreek on the other hand. It's just going to be a high scoring game, but I'm going for the Bucks.
Right, you have a friend on the team?
Tyler Johnson, he's a Minnesota native. He's, you know, just a role model to everybody from North Minneapolis. And he's putting up numbers as a rookie, going to the Super Bowl as a rookie. You know, It's just the sky's the limit for him.
You know, it's hard for me to want the Bucks to win because I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. He does not need another Super Bowl win. But I know that if anyone's capable of taking the Bucks to a Super Bowl win, it's going to be Tom Brady. And something that I've been really interested in is Antonio Brown. As a Bengals fan, I've grown up hating the Steelers and hating Antonio Brown. But, you know, now that he's back in the league, everyone kind of forgot about him. But then Le'Veon Bell, also a former Steelers player, is on the Chiefs. So that'll be interesting to see those 2 teammates now playing against each other. Do you have a score prediction?
I would say, I don't know. It's going to be like 50-something to like 40-something.
That's high.
High scoring game. I'm trying to tell you, this is too many big players on offense. It's just going to, their defense is not really, you know, they're not really the top
You don't
defense
really
of the
hear
league.
about like the Bucks defense or the Chiefs defense.
So I think it's going to be a very high scoring game.
I think it'll be 42-34
234?
Bucks.
Bucks?
Yes.
Okay.
As much as it pains me, at least it's not Brady and the Patriots.
Yep.
You know, Brady and the Bucks. That organization hasn't been in the Super Bowl, I think, in over 20 years.
Yeah.
So you're hoping for the organization that they can get it, not necessarily Tom Brady.
Yep, the organization. And Tyler Johnson.
Right, yes. All right, well, we are out of time for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bison Overtime. For Malik Mitchell, I'm Alex Dusky. Tune in next week, Friday at 12:30 p.m. to hear more about Bison Sports.